Don and JoAnn Dorrell have been married for 65 years. They both grew up in Rifle and went to high school together. They remember the 30s as a time when kids were expected to go to work early and assume responsibilities far beyond their years.
The ranch down, I know they had 6 big teams. That was my job, harnessing the horses. And I'd have to get on a 5-gallon bucket to put the collar on them. They were big horses.
So you started that job. How old were you?
I wasn't very old, 7 or 8. I drove the stacker horse. Well, I just would go to the barn in the morning and harness the teams. I'd drive the stacker horse till I got older. Then they put me on the haystack, and that wasn't good. But my brother and I, we had to ride about 7 miles to school, horseback.
Where was the school?
On down below.
Down closer to the valley?
Yeah, down. It'd be about 7 miles down from where we lived over there. I know they didn't have the kind of clothes then that you got now. And some mornings it'd be 20 below when we'd have to leave. And we rode double, bareback. And the horses' body heat would kind of keep us from freezing to death. And when we get to the schoolhouse, the teacher, we had a big pot-bellied stove there, and she'd park us around that till we get thawed out.
Wow. And did you ever get lost? I mean, was it pretty...
Oh, no.
The horses?
No, we had a trail going from the house down to the schoolhouse.
Was there a particular hard time growing up?
No, not really. Didn't seem like it anyway. We had plenty of clothes and plenty to eat. And my job when I got home from school was get the wood pile, get in the chips and in the wood. And we had to carry the water from the creek, probably 100 yards to the house, and I'd have to fill the reservoir on the stove.
Did you just carry it in buckets, or
Yeah.
did you have some way to carry more than just
No, just
buckets?
a couple of buckets. I'd have to make 2 trips with
Yeah.
2 buckets to fill the reservoir on the stove. We never got hungry, really, but I can remember 31 or something. The government would pay us to kill the calves, and that year we had 2 or 3 cows that have twins, but you had to kill them.
Because there wasn't a market for them?
There wasn't a market for them.
So they would pay you?
Or to get rid of them, you know. We'd eat the meat, you know. But my brother and I can remember, we'd go deer hunting and get a buckskin, you know.
Right.
Or rabbits, whatever we could get.
What about you, Mrs. Dorrell? Do you remember particular hard times growing up?
Well,
as a kid?
I grew up in town. You know, I didn't move out here till we got married, but
She was a city gal.
I imagine things were pretty. Although I'm like Donald, we never ever did without that I knew that they ever told me, but they were hard. You know, you just didn't spend anything you didn't have to.
What year were you born?
29. So Donald's 3 years older than I am.
One of the only bright things that happened in that year, huh? 'Cause that was the year everything fell apart.
Yeah, during the Depression, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know, my folks never did ever worry us about that. So I guess I know it was hard for them, but we, like Donald said, we always had plenty to eat and didn't.
What did your folks do?
Well, my dad hauled coal in the wintertime and then ran a sawmill in the summertime up Divide Creek. And it was fairly good living, I guess. Hard work.
Yeah, really hard work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The town of Rifle had the diversion point was up above our house, and they had two small houses that the water went through, and they gave me $9 a month to. We had coal oil lanterns in them two houses to kind of keep the ice down, and I'd go up and fill them coal oil lanterns every night after school, because the guy that take care of it, he couldn't get up there unless he went on skis or snowshoes.
So there was just enough warm coal oil lantern to keep things from icing up?
To keep a lot of the ice down, you know. Wow. And they had a chlorine machine in there to treat the water, and I'd have to fill that chlorine machine.
So you were handling chlorine as a kid?
Yeah. I was about 9 years old. But it was set to where they knew how many gallons was going in the city line.
I know. But nowadays, could you imagine somebody going,
oh, man.
Who's taking care of the water supply? Well, we got this 9-year-old kid.
Yeah, we...
yeah, that wouldn't go over very big nowadays, would it? No.
The city was... We had some trouble with them. They was wanting to get the water or something, and their attorney said the people out here on the mesa was drinking raw water, you know. And I corrected him. I said, no. We was drinking the same water that the people in town were drinking. I know because I took care of the chlorine that went in.
For $9 a month.
$9 a month.
Right.
Well, that was pretty good money then, you know.
So did they come out and hire you in specifically? Or was it something they gave to your dad and your dad gave to you?
Well, because we lived close to the point of diversion up there, why they wanted us to take care of it. So I took care of it.
During the 1930s, Don Dorrell's family had enough to eat, but there was no money to be had. Here Don remembers a time when having enough to eat just wasn't enough.
But my granddad, he homesteaded 160, and his boy homesteaded another 160. But his 160, he built the cabin and got a fence around it, but his boy built one below it. He couldn't, he got the cabin started and part of the fence, but he didn't have money enough to finish it. So he had to let it go back because he couldn't get, I think he needed about $200 and couldn't get it. The cabin is still, some of it's still there, you know, but he never did get it finished. But his dad up on top up there, he got his finished. And they all had root cellars, you know, and they'd have big gardens, you know, potatoes and turnips and all that kind of stuff.
Root crops so that you could keep it through the winter.
Yeah, and they had big root cellars. And he'd probably kill enough buckskin before they moved down. But he had a team of horses, and he'd cut hay up there to feed these horses all winter. They were tough, them guys. Yeah. They had to be. If you got sick, well, that was just tough. You didn't get sick. Well, my grandmother died. She went to California. Her daughter lived out there, and she got pneumonia out there and died. And they brought her back, you know. And I know they was really hard up, Dad. And he went to the banker to borrow him some money to bury her, you know. And the banker wouldn't give him any money.
What year was that?
1935. But he got the money some way. But it was really hard up. I know, I think we had 6 or 7 milk cows and chickens. And you'd take the cream to town and have a case of eggs or something and buy the groceries with the cream check and the egg check.
So you trade, basically trade.
Right. You didn't spend any money that you didn't have to. We had an old Nash. It was a four-seater, but it had a canvas. It was a convertible, I guess. But that's the first car that I can remember my folks having.
What'd you guys do for fun back then when you were kids?
Go to the wood pile and cut wood.
Stay out of trouble.
Oh, they'd have dances at the Horton Schoolhouse every once in a while, you know, and people would all go and have a big time.
About once a month they'd have a...
When these kids were little, they'd take them when they were just little, and they'd all bed down on the back of the seats at the schoolhouse and go to sleep, and their folks would dance the night away. And then they'd have to bundle them all up with quilts and stuff because they were, you know, they had a team and a sled and to come home.
I know they'd heat rocks, and that'd help keep us warm.
Heat the rocks and then put them in the sled under your feet.
Under your quilts and stuff. Yeah.
But they had big old heavy quilts, you know, and put straw in the box of the sled and dance till about daylight and then go home.
That was Don and JoAnn Dorrell recalling life in Rifle, Colorado in the 1930s.